Hey, buenos dias. My
Buenos
name's
dias, mi
Randall Park.
hermano.
What's up, dude? My name's Randall Parks. I'm with the Morning Stoke. And we're going to continue our conversation this week with Ryan Clay on PTSD. So it's definitely something that a lot of veterans deal with. A lot of veterans deal with it in various different ways. So I just wanted to kind of bring in Ryan. I know he's dealt with PTSD himself, and just get his perspective. So Ryan, go ahead and introduce yourself, brother.
I'm Ryan. I first met Randall. For some reason, I went back to Parris Island to be a drill instructor. That was short-lived after a hemorrhagic stroke where a blood clot busted on my brain. But Randall has always been just one of a true friend, the truest of friends. So they retired me medically, and I continued to follow Randall in his career, where he recently retired within the last 2 weeks, I believe.
Yeah. I hit my end of my 73 days of terminal on the 30th of September. So it was awesome.
Marine Corps' greatest gift is ended out with vacation.
Yeah. So
So
Ryan, go ahead and give us some background on your time in the Marine Corps, what you did, and where you deployed to.
I enlisted in 2001. Once again, that's my first trip to Parris Island under Echo Company in 2008. It's funny how you don't forget things like that. Went to School of Infantry at Camp Geiger, which a lot of the Marines call it Camp Giggles. Deployed with, went to my first duty station with 2nd Battalion 8th Marines under the wonderful command of now retired Fulbright Colonel Roy Mortensen. The man was he was not only a mentor, but almost like a second father now, where I'm at now. We deployed to Iraq, the invasion, in 2003. I was wounded in Nasiriyah. 3 or 4 days into the war. It was the 24th when I was wounded. I'm not sure what happened. I was knocked out. I was medevaced out. Talking to some of our own mortarmen that are congruent with, Weapons Platoon 2-8, and I was with Fox Company. Fox Company's 2-8, but Weapons Platoon of the Fox Company, they said it was a barrage of D-30, which is Iraqi artillery, which I'm sure you're probably unwittingly familiar with. It's no worse feeling than not knowing where it's coming from. So anyway, I recovered. They tried to medical separate me at that point in time, and I fought it, and deployed that fall of 2003 to Afghanistan, Bagram. That was an experience. It's a different experience. I believe our first approach into Iraq was not as many threats of improvised explosive devices as we learned in Afghanistan on our first tour. So I come back from that, and then I, transferred back over as, NCO at the time. And I went to back to Camp Geiger, Camp Giggles, to be an infantry combat instructor. Did my 3 years there. Was then back to the fleet, which, drill instructors call it, when you hit the fleet raw and nasty. Well, I couldn't get enough of the fleet. So went back to 3rd Battalion 6th Marines under the command of Colonel Christmas.
That's General Christmas's son, right?
Correct. And I believe he has a brother as well too. General Christmas, the impeccable leader from the Vietnam era, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah.
At that point in time, I was a platoon sergeant. My platoon was split. They had my lieutenant at one patrol base, and then I was at a separate patrol base, the Yellow Schoolhouse, which became unwantingly the infamous Yellow Schoolhouse. Just struggles every day. I wouldn't say enemy contact daily, but every numerous times a week. I had several of my Marines wounded. Obviously won't say their names, just, confidentiality. That was the first time in my life that we embedded with a foreign country's army, the Afghan National Army, and served alongside of them. We had a few of them that were killed. But several engagements to where, on the radio, Staff Sergeant, I'm hit. I remember the sergeant's name at the time. He goes, Staff Sergeant Clay, I've been hit. So you're getting on your little quarterback wrist thing that you wear, like the quarterbacks read the plays, and I'm going through the nine line for the CASEVAC and all, and pretty much every one of them was urgent surgical, which I think they classified that as just urgent now. It was just unnerving. But for that, I think that was the the full 7 months of that combat experience, that was the worst tour I've ever been on as far as kinetic.
Yeah, just kinetic the whole
engagements
time
with the enemy. Correct. And Marjah is not your friend. Helmand Province is not your friend. So I guess, that whole deployment, I was just stressed to the max. I'd sleep maybe 2 or 3 hours a night when we did sleep. So I came back from that and received orders to, actually, you don't receive orders at drill instructor school. You have to put in for them and be approved for it. But I was, that's where I come to drill instructor school. I graduated DI school as the assistant class commander, which other terms, the assistant honor graduate. That may have been my default because the honor graduate was a gunnery sergeant and I was a staff sergeant. So I don't think they could allow that.
Yeah, that's when I ran into you in a hotel company.
And then I remember I got that award that had the combat distinguishing device, the V for valor, and you walked up and you elbowed me. You said, "Welcome to the club, bro." And I'll never forget that. Never in my wildest days. So then on the cycle we was doing, I don't know, the doctors, the naval doctors, I mean, they're great and all, but I surely didn't know what they was talking about. But I had they think a blood clot that ruptured, and they maybe traced it back to one of the many IED blasts from any one of the 3 tours. 2004 tour wasn't really that bad for me. It was more of a, it was chaotic and hectic, but it was up in the mountains, up in Camp Blessing, Nagalam. If Bill Hefty's listening, don't ever say the Sorobi Dam. He hates that place worse than he hates the Taliban themselves.
Yeah, dude. So obviously a lot of different experiences between Iraq and Afghanistan. So when did you kind of notice that you were having like PTSD, like symptoms, or you recognized that maybe you had an issue?
Okay, so I was first retired from the Marine Corps. So the second, I mentioned the first time around was 2003. In between Iraq, coming home wounded, and then going back in the fall of 2003 and carried over into 2004 for Afghanistan. So I fought that one, and the second time around, this time I have children. I wasn't married. I'm married now, and it's amazing, but I don't know. Like, I didn't fight it. So when I first got home, away from the Marine Corps, away from your way of life that you've known ever since, my whole adult life. I mean, I enlisted right out of high school. And then you start realizing, I think what's a lot of veterans don't realize that they have it because they're amongst everyone else that has it.
Yeah.
While active duty.
Yeah, it's a good point.
You start noticing, you don't feel like you stick out or you're odd because everyone else around you is just as odd as you. That's what Marines are, I mean, don't ever watch the movie Jarhead and then call me and tell me, I'm like, but yeah, I mean, you don't notice the differences when everyone else has those same traits that you have. But when you come home to civilian life and, it's harder to start letting go of things. When I retired, I became a law enforcement officer, and we worked at a few different locations. And I finally made it to the location where I'm at now, but I resigned last week, if you recall. Nothing ever. That was one of the greatest places I ever worked, aside from the Marine Corps. I think I chased the law enforcement career just to be in a uniform. The sense of belonging, but you're dealing with domestic disputes and calls and all this stuff that you and I've done our whole entire existence. And at a certain point, you start to lose touch with reality. And, how do I come home and leave it at the door?
Yeah, you can't.
No. And now my PTSD, like I've told everybody, it's not like a Rambo mad because they won't let him walk across the bridge and just shooting up the whole town. No, mine is just like I want everyone's approval. I want everyone, to not have not be mad at me, not let anyone down. I think my biggest fear is disappointing someone. Just the disappointment in itself was enough to set me back, or make a state of depression. So that's my journey. It's just time to walk away, and I'm finally come to terms with, and I go to counseling every week, and I'm finally coming to terms with, self-worth and the fact of it's okay because you can't tote a gun your entire life. at some point in time, you got to step away. So, as far as the PTSD part, the counseling, I'm not embarrassed at all about that. I'm proud of myself. I'm happy.
Yeah, nor should you be.
And I hope that others will follow, and there's just that black eye on it, because back in Vietnam era, they called it shell shock. They called it flashbacks. They called it terrors.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everything. It's just the verbiage just changed, but the military and the United States government finally recognized the fact that, hey, this is solvable. It's fixable if we just quit ignoring them.
Yeah. I think I started noticing when I got to the depot, my last duty station, because everything had kind of, leveled out for me. Like, I wasn't doing workups. I wasn't deploying, life had kind of returned to a normal state, and I think that's when I really started noticing, just little things that would come out from time to time. Me not being able to sleep through the night, me
Every
just
night.
constantly keeping my plate stacked with stuff, like just constantly trying to stay as busy as possible. And, I started going to some counseling, and I kind of went through with my counselor my daily rhythm, like what I do every day. And she's like, that's your symptom of PTSD. I'm like, what?
Right.
She's like, yeah, you just constantly stay in a state of deployment and workup.
Right.
And
Busy.
I'm like, what? Yeah, just busy, like busy for no reason. And in some aspects, it wasn't bad for me, because I was able to be an active duty first sergeant, start working in real estate, and finish my master's at USC all at the same time. So, I mean, I guess there was a benefit to that, but at some point I just started to crash. So that's when I really started noticing that I had an issue, and that I needed to start getting it addressed. So that kind of leads me to my next question for you is, what kind of treatment have you undergone? And, what has worked, what hasn't worked, good, bad, ugly,
Well, I did counseling back in 2016 era timeframe. And, they had me on, and I've quit taking medication, and it's doing so much better for me. Myself that, I own a business, and I work every day. If I want to work, I work every day. And I usually try to exhaust myself, which is my way of medicating, if you will. They had me on Wellbutrin, trazodone, Effexor, Klonopin, and something else. At one point in time, they had me on Ambien, and that was at Paris Island. Dear friend of mine, he retired as a master sergeant. Chris, we lived at the Osprey Inn together at Geo Bachelors, and he noticed my doors open one night, and he come down to the parking lot, and I was in my truck with my keys in my hand, and that's when we went to medical the next day. It's like, he's off this Ambien. He's done. It works for some, but it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So medication really, it kind of scares me. My biggest help for me is, one, staying busy. Two, talking about it.
Yeah.
I go through the sleepless nights, every night, about 3 a.m. I'll wake up, and then you just lay there wondering, like, what, you start thinking about all the what ifs, why did I wear a blue sock and a red sock when I was in third grade? And, people could have made so much fun of, you think about all the stuff that you did, and it's almost like your brain is just going 200 miles an hour and the body's going.
Yeah, it doesn't turn off.
No, it doesn't. I had a little nightmare last night. I don't wake up screaming. I'll wake up and the bed's soaked.
Yeah.
And so, my wife, she woke me up. She goes, "Ryan, are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, maybe I'm not okay," because my pillow is wet all the way to my toes. Like, well, I know I didn't pee the bed, babe. So
yeah, your body just releases everything. I kind of went through that when I was a drill instructor, where I would wake up and the whole side of my bed would be covered in sweat.
Right.
It's just your body's reaction to high stress. And I think it's, part of maybe the natural process of us just unloading and decompressing all of this stuff. I don't know if you've ever done any, and I know it. Like I live in California. I got the wine shirt. Like I get it. But dude, one of the things that has been instrumental for me is meditation. Um, I'll grab my phone. I'll look up on YouTube just a 15-minute meditation. I throw in my earpods or my AirPods, and I just lay down on the couch, and I just shut down like midday. And I learned that through Intrepid Spirit. It's a great PTSD and TBI clinic here in Camp Pendleton that I went through. And I feel like that alone really helps keep me centered. Have you ever explored anything like that?
Yes, I have. Must have been 2 weeks ago, and I was nervous about it. But my therapist, he's like, have you ever been put under hypnosis? I'm like, no, neither are you going to either. Don't ask what age I was when I first kissed a girl. He goes, no. He goes, no. He goes, you don't. He goes, I don't ask questions. He goes, it's more of a deep meditation. And I honestly, if anyone's worried about that or afraid of that, I knew everything going on around me. I could hear everything, but my wife went with me because I was like, "You're going with me." I said, "I want someone in the room that, kick me in the shin. Ryan, wake up." So anyways, he put me under. He's walking me down these stairs, and this is all in your mind. Walking down the stairs, on your last step, and he said on the last step I showed a lot of hesitation. So he's telling me, take your time, and then walking through a big green meadow, and he wanted me to get in the brook, stream, river, whatever you refer to it as, and dip your toes in, and then he brought me back out of it. And my wife said at some point in time when I stepped off that last step into the meadow that he was describing as I was following him in our little hypnosis, I wouldn't say dream because you're not asleep, but she goes, my shoulders collapsed. Like, everything. Like I dropped the pack. Yeah. I dropped my rucksack. So.
Yeah, I think what you're describing is EMDR. I think that's what they call it. I went through that. It was really, really good. Like you, I was very skeptical, because I didn't want to lose control, right? I don't want
exactly.
I don't want some witch doctor, freaking try and hypnotize me, But
I was a cop for years. I heard all the stories.
Yes. So basically all I did is I just started going. They just had me start talking, and basically what they described is that you just start releasing all the stuff that's up here in the front of your brain, and it just starts coming out. And I think I was under for about an hour and a half. And I was exhausted when I was done.
Legs numb, arms tingly.
Dude, I was donezo, and I did it strategically. I did it at the end of the day. I don't really remember driving home, and I lived an hour away from the depot, so that probably wasn't a good thing. But dude, I went home and I went to bed at 4:00 in the afternoon, and I didn't wake up until 6:00 the next morning. I was just that exhausted, but dude, I felt so much better.
It's a good thing. It is. And, I've done the regular counseling stuff where it's just an exchange talking about it one-on-one. I've done the hypnosis, EMDR, and then the meditation. And I feel like a lot of those things were really beneficial. And the best part is we weren't putting any, opiates in our bodies or any kind of foreign chemical. So is there anything that you do outside of that? I like to surf. Surfing's kind of my decompress time and kind of recentering time where I'm not tied to this, or these, I'm just kind of turn off. So do you hunt? Do you fish? What kind of things fish.
do you do?
I hunt and fish. I love, build with my hands, but my really good therapy for me at home is, you've seen on my Facebook, brisket, ribs, all kinds of, I smoke a lot of, pork and beef. That's pretty well, gotta be careful. You're gonna put on some pounds if you're not careful. I'm still 6 foot and 230, but I'm still in a fighting weight. But man, you could easily just tone that up to about 220 240 and not even feel bad. But
maybe switch it up with some chicken and vegetables,
No. Oh, how's the family doing?
Dude, they're doing good, man. And, and honestly, the family is the reason that I really pursued, getting some of the help that I needed. I think combat veterans in particular, you're lying to yourself. If you went over there and you actually were on the two-way gun range, you're bringing back some residual with you. Like,
yeah,
it's there. Like,
and it's a very hard one to swallow to say, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too deep. So, it's time to step up. And that's what leaders do. Leaders, they step up and lead the way. That's why I've tried to make it a documentation on my social media of, how my counseling went today, inspire others. And you would not believe, I've had several veterans and even law enforcement, reach out to me. There's my wife would tell you probably maybe 2-3 times a week, maybe a little further along than that. But my phone ring about 2 a.m. And when my phone rings at 2 a.m., my wife knows to get up. She gets me a pot of coffee going. Yeah, because I may be on. If I have to be on the phone until the sun comes up, if that's what it takes. That's what it takes. We got to get someone to come to you. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, and that's honestly why I wanted to have you on, Ryan, is because I want if just one person sees this video podcast,
may save one,
decides like, hey, dude, these guys did it. Like, I need to do this. Like, I need to go get help for myself, for my family, for my job, whatever it is. Then that's a huge win, man. For us. Definitely.
It is. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. If someone's ashamed of you or they try to, throw it off as an issue you've got, I only pray that they never have to go through what puts this in your body, in your mind, in your body. I pray that they never have to go through that. Yeah. Because lack of knowledge is free.
Yeah.
But knowing to do with it is, failing to do something with it is costly.
Yeah. And it's not easy. There's all these programs out there, and honestly, there's almost too many programs because it's so hard to like navigate and try and figure out which one's right for you. But you can't give up. Like when I started this journey, I met with a counselor that I was referred out to from Balboa Naval Hospital. She was so disorganized. Every time I went in there, I had to keep retelling everything because she would lose her notes or whatever. And I gave up. I was like, dude, I'm done. Like,
she's not listening to you.
She wasn't listening to me, and then she wasn't keeping the notes. It was a shit show.
Well, it makes you frustrated too. Like, if that was your first time in counseling, that you get the impression of this doesn't even work. So let's go drink to an oblivion, or let's go, just cry and get depressed and go down that rabbit hole where you're too deep to get out. I mean, it's too late.
It was tough. I mean, because just to get to that point where I was able to go into Balboa and actually seek some help was really tough. Now, it wasn't the Naval Hospital's, fault. They just referred me to somebody that was in their network. But then I gave up for a while, probably for about a year, and then I got back on it. Through encouraging my wife. She was like, I think you have some issues, and I think it would do you well to see somebody. So I saw somebody who introduced me to EMDR, and she was great. And she really helped me out a lot. And then,
and for those out there that don't know, there's no watch in front of your face ticking.
Yeah.
That's not how mine was. Just so I know there's some out there, they say they watch the movie Good Will Hunting where he starts singing Afternoon Delight because he can't be hypnotized. It's not like that.
And then, I got to a point where like I was doing really well, and then COVID hit, and then it all went away. It's been a roller coaster, but like, what is your alternative? Like you can't stop, you can't give up, you have to keep pressing. And that's really why I wanted to do this segment on PTSD, because it's always going to be with you. In my opinion, I don't think you're ever going to get rid of it.
No, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a badge of honor.
Yeah.
They should issue medals for that stuff.
Well, you got one, brother.
I know. I'm just being funny, trying to lighten the mood for maybe someone out there laughing and seeing that, we're having a good time with it. We're enjoying it. It's not always going to counseling and going through a box of Kleenexes. I don't think I've done that not one time. It's, it's incredible.
And it does get better, and you're able to refocus and pursue the happiness that everybody that's watching this that may be struggling, that you deserve. And that's what it's all about, you know. So I'll when I post the video, I'll tag you in the video. So anybody that wants to reach out, doesn't matter who you are, if you've worn this nation's cloth and you put rounds down range and you want to talk, just PM us, DM us, whatever, and we'll be here to talk to you. So,
and we may not have all the answers, but we know how to flip to a page and find them.
Yeah,
that's what I've always tried to stress, is that, you know, you may not think I have all the answers. I'm just a, you know, country boy from North Carolina, but I know exactly where to turn to. I mean, man, I don't surf, man. I hate the beach. I hate the sand. I hate it. It reminds me of the Taliban, and I don't like them either.
Well, Ryan, dude, I really appreciate your time, man. I know it's
thanks for
dark
having
out
me.
there. Yeah, dude. Thank you so much, man, for coming on and telling your story. And hopefully we inspire somebody to seek some help and get their life to where it needs to be.
Semper Fi, brother. I love you.
I love you too, man. Bye, con Dios.
Bye, bro.